All right. Hello, Paul Zober, Professional Corporation team. I'm excited to be able to talk to you a little bit today. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. So I wanted to just go over with you a few things. Just sometimes it's really good to know the why, and then that motivates us to take action on things. Because you all work at desks a lot, there's very common issues. And a lot of people struggle with L4 and L5 pain. A lot of people end up having to have surgery for that. And honestly, it's very preventable through movement, which I know you know. But what movement to do? What should be top priority? If you've only got 10 minutes, if you only got 5 minutes, what will be the most effective for you? I know Paul's going to talk to you about movement snacks, and that's such a great strategy. But if I can help you to understand where to best direct that time, that will hopefully be valuable to you. So because we're sitting a lot, there's a really big issues with tightness in our hip flexors because we're sitting, and also tightness in our pectoralis major and associated muscles from typing a lot, right? So we're sitting like this a lot. We might be even slouching. If we can sit up tall, I saw what you just did there. If we can sit up tall, that will help. If we can open up the chest as we're sitting. Not only is it opening the chest, but it's also drawing down the lower ribs. So you're going to feel your core switch on a little bit. Maybe 30 to 50% is what you want when you're sitting. But basically this is going to get tight. This is weak, right? Correspondingly, our pulling muscles are weak. Our glutes are weak. So we have this crisscross of weakness and tightness that ends up causing a lot of issues for the low back, the shoulders, the knees. So what needs to be mobile is our thoracic spine, which when we're sitting all the time, our thoracic spine loses all knowledge of how to move. The other thing that needs to be stronger is our glute max. And again, when we're sitting all the time, glute max loses. It loses a lot of strength, and therefore we end up with a lot of problems. So in your movement snacks, some really great strategies are to strengthen what is weak, which will actually inherently loosen up what's tight. So you get a win-win there, all right? So typically, because we're sitting a lot, what we need to do is a lot of pulling. And even in the course that I teach to personal trainers, we tell them with people that are new to exercise, they should be doing twice as many pulls as pushes. So, a typical push is a push-up, which again, you can even actually just do very easily against the wall. And they're still valuable. They still get movement through the arms, the shoulders, the thoracic spine. But for every push-up, we should be doing at least 2 pulls. Now, these could be horizontal pulls, or they could be vertical pulls. So if you've got something like some tubing, some banding that you can tie up high, what I do, we've got a lot of stairs in our place, so I'll tie it up to a high railing on my stairs. I'll get down and kneel, and then from there, I've actually got a way to vertically pull, which is great. It's really good to do both. But if you can only do one, do that horizontal pull. A little bit easier to figure that one out. Now, how can you horizontally pull without much equipment? Well, guess what? I've just bought a big, huge thing of Epsom salts, for example, right? It's got a great handle on it. I can tip over because we want to have gravity working in our favor here. So tipping over really will help us to recruit these pulling muscles better. You want to pull the chin in, again, stick your butt out, get your core strong and braced. And then we're just going to take that jug and pull and then slowly lower. Now, why do we want to slowly lower? Well, that's what we call the eccentric phase of the muscle contraction. And when we want to build strength, that eccentric phase is really critical. So it might be counterintuitive to you. This is where I'm working, right? But actually, as we are lengthening the muscles under load, they are building strength. That's scientifically proven. So you want to come up and then down. Let's say we come up for 1, down for 2 with control. You don't want to let the weight pull you over. You don't want to let the weight round your spine. So you want to hold a nice, strong position here. Chest is open, ribs are dropped in front, squeezing the glutes a little bit and pull. So that's something that you could do easily with anything that you've got that's fairly heavy. Could be a laundry jug, could be anything with a nice handle on it. All right, so we want to do some pulling, which will actually stretch the chest, right? So there again, we are strengthening what is weak, our pulling muscles, and we're lengthening what's tight through the pull. So that's great. All right, so that would be one really great movement snack. Another thing that would be great to do in conjunction with that is just some rotation. Again, you're sitting a lot, the thoracic spine, so where those ribs are meeting, coming into the spine, are really tight. So doing some rotation. When you do that rotation, especially if you've got bad knees, you want to try to lift your back heel to reduce any kind of shearing on your knee so that you can actually turn your thigh bone rather than your knee getting all funky, right? So you want to lift the heel, turn the thigh bone in, follow through with the ribs. And this gives you a really nice full body rotational mobility movement. So that would be a really good thing to partner with your pulling when you are doing your movement snack. All right, so that's number one. How do we counteract tight pecs and rounding the shoulders? We want to do some pulling. All right. Again, with the vertical pulling, it's very similar. You just want to make sure before you start pulling that you pull your chin in, you drop your shoulders down, and you pull from that position. And again, as you slowly come back up, try to keep the chin in and the shoulders down. As you come up, you're going to want to do this, right? That's typically what the body knows how to do really well, unfortunately, which is what causes us a lot of problems. So you got to fight that. Chin is in as all the way through that movement. So it's harder to fight for that on the way up. Trust me. So you got to really focus on that. All right. Okay. Second area that is really needing attention to protect that low back and also strengthen you functionally is your glutes. So we're sitting a lot. Now, typically what you got to do to strengthen the glutes is hip extension, right? So it could be something as easy as this. Grab a wall, get yourself nice and tall, just kind of shift your weight so that foot comes off the ground, and then just squeeze your butt. So don't think about how far back your leg's going to go. Look what's going on there. It's all coming into my low back. But stay nice and tall and just squeeze your butt, keeping your low ribs in. That will protect your low back. You can even put your hands there to make sure it's happening. So as the bum squeezes, the core needs to tighten to protect your low back and put the work where we want it into those weaker glute muscles. And it might take a lot of concentration for you at first. You're building new neuromuscular pathways, or you're kind of blasting through some old roads if you've been active before. Just a little squeeze like that would be a great way to start. Now, as you get stronger, you could be laying on the ground to do that. I'll just show that to you real quick. Hopefully you can see me. So again, just resting your head. I know you can't see my head, but just again, you want to create a hollow body here. So we're going to pull the core in. We're going to tuck the tail just a little bit, and then just squeeze the glute and come down. Squeeze and come down. And you could do alternating. Just make sure that, again, every time you squeeze your bum, what else is squeezing? Your core, right? Your belly is pulling in. All right, or you could do 10 on one side, 10 on the other side. Now, to progress that even more, you could use something like a bench or some kind of elevated surface where you would just hang your hips off, grab hold of that bench, and now I can get a bigger range of motion, right? So now I can go past where I would be on the floor, getting a bit of a bigger range of motion to increase that. You could do that on a fitness ball as well. You could do it on the edge of your bed, lots of places. So that's one way. So those would be ways to isolate those weak muscles. Now, another thing that's great to do to put it all together is a squat. So with the squat, you want to make sure you can go into a prisoner position, which is great, again, to open up the chest, squeeze the shoulder blade muscles, pull the low ribs in, and even just a mini squat, and then pull yourself up, squeeze your glutes, and pull up in front of your knees. Little squat and up. Squat and up. All right, that would be another nice little movement snack. All right, so that's one of the primal movement patterns. So we've got pushing, pulling, squatting, which could also be another primal movement is the lunge. So you can step back, again, get into really nice, strong position. Chest is open, low ribs down, down, and up. And even if you just do a mini version of that, you could be holding onto the wall for support, but lunging is a primal movement pattern. So if you've got bad knees, don't give up, because the only way to reduce pain in your knees is to strengthen above and below the knee, which means you've got to work through a little bit of discomfort. Again, feel free to check with your doctor on that, but you will see a pain reduction as you build strength in the muscles above and below the knee. All right, so that's another primal movement. And then again, finishing with that rotation. So common issues, glute weakness, upper back weakness. As well, we want to move in different planes, right? So we've talked about pulling. We've talked about hip extension to strengthen the glutes. We also could do some side stepping, right? Just to move into different planes. So that would be your frontal plane. Up until now, we've been doing everything in the sagittal plane, which is very common. And then that transverse plane. So let's say we even do some vertical punches with that rotation we were practicing. So we would do the same rotation, but we're going to punch up, come down, punch up, come down. Now, if you had some tubing or some kind of band, I'll show you an example. I mean, these bands are so great. And I got these actually at Decathlon at South Center, and Decathlon is a super cheap place to get fitness equipment. So you could do this with a band. Now this is actually going to be too hard for me, so I'm going to go to something a little bit easier. But what you would do just to provide some, again, this would be vertical pushing, but with rotation. So I'm just standing on that band. As I rotate, I'm pressing up, coming down slowly. Remember that eccentric contraction. Push up, come down slowly, and then I can switch sides. So the point I'm trying to make is you want to focus on stuff that's tight and stuff that doesn't move well. A lot of times it's our thoracic spine that doesn't move well. We want to pull a lot more than we push. As well, our glutes are weak, which can lead to a lot of issues with our low back, all right? Also, our core is weak, right? So that's something that we want to work all the time. You can be working that even when you're standing, even when you're sitting at the desk. Just think about drawing in, right? You could be doing a wall plank like this, where we just put our hands up, step back a little bit, set our shoulder blades, and just keep pulling in our core, keep pulling it in, keep pulling it in. And the more horizontal our body gets, the harder this is. So you could work your way down until you're on a bench or right down onto the floor. So that's a really great core exercise for most people to help, again, counteract low back issues. Right, so bottom line is do those movement snacks, focus on the weak stuff, and that'll help you with your low back pain, help you enjoy your work a bit more. And thanks for your time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.